Why do we postpone the life we already know matters? We say family comes first, then give it the hours that survive work. We save important conversations for a calmer season. We act as if the people we love are standing still while we finish becoming ready. Most days, time cooperates with the illusion. Then a phone falls to the floor. At 8:43, on a Thursday evening, Maya drove toward St. Vincent Hospital while Daniel tried to learn whether her father was alive. Hi, I'm Sarah, and this is Wise Mind Stories. In this final episode, you will learn how the era that formed you quietly limits what you can imagine. Why mortality makes ordinary life more vivid instead of less. And how to use the reality of limited time as a filter for what deserves your life now. Victor Chen had experienced a small ischemic stroke. A neighbor found him beside the kitchen table after hearing the phone fall. The ambulance arrived quickly. By the time Maya reached the emergency department, he was awake. His right hand was weak. His speech came slowly, one careful word at a time. "You," he said when Maya entered, "look terrible." Maya laughed and cried in the same breath. June sat beside him and placed the paper crown from his birthday on the hospital tray. "For protection," she said. Victor lifted his left hand in solemn agreement. The doctors expected meaningful recovery. There would be tests, therapy, and changes to how he lived alone. Relief filled the room. Relief did not return the world to its previous shape. Maya watched her father search for the word water and understood that time could remain generous without becoming infinite again. Robert Greene's law of generational myopia asks us to see a force larger than individual personality. We are born into a historical mood. Our generation absorbs assumptions about work, trust, technology, family, authority, risk, and what the future will probably contain. Because those assumptions arrive early, they feel like reality, rather than an era's interpretation of reality. Victor came of age believing security was built through endurance, savings, technical competence, and not burdening other people. His parents had lived through displacement and scarcity. Need was something you reduced before anyone could see it. Maya entered adulthood during rapid technological optimism and expanding professional opportunity. She learned that systems could be redesigned, identity could be built through work, and relentless competence might create control. June had grown up inside permanent connectivity, public vulnerability, climate anxiety, and algorithms that made institutions feel both intimate and untrustworthy. She expected transparency. She also expected adults to conceal what mattered until exposure forced honesty. 3 people could look at Lumen and see 3 different promises. Victor saw a tool that might preserve independence. Maya saw a system that could organize responsibility. June saw a question. Who controls the story once a family puts it online? Every generation mistakes its adaptation for common sense. Greene calls for generational awareness. Study the decisive events before and during your entrance into adult life. Notice the social style, heroes, anxieties, humor, and shadow of your age group. Then study the generations around you not as stereotypes, but as different adaptations to different historical conditions. The goal is not to declare one generation correct. It is to see the water each one learned to swim in. Generations often define themselves against the one before. A revolutionary cohort breaks from old forms. The next seeks order. A later group becomes pragmatic. Another senses lost vitality and begins questioning inherited arrangements. The pattern is not a clock, and individuals always vary, but the reaction itself can make a new generation blind to useful parts of the past. At the hospital, this blindness became practical. Maya wanted Victor to move into assisted living temporarily. Victor refused. You cannot use one hand safely, Maya said. He lifted the weak hand several inches. 2, he said. Dad. Home. Maya heard denial. Victor heard the beginning of disappearance. First decisions, then keys, then the apartment containing the last 20 years with his wife. June asked, "What would have to change for home to be safe?" The question created a bridge neither adult had found. Victor agreed to daily therapy, a temporary live-in caregiver, medication support, and a review after 4 weeks. Maya agreed not to describe the arrangement as the first step toward leaving. June's generational instinct for consent corrected Maya's instinct for control. Victor's insistence on continuity corrected their instinct to treat novelty as automatic progress. Cross-generational contact widens the possible future because it reveals which beliefs belong to human nature and which belong to a moment. At Lumen, the same insight changed the product plan. The research panel for Lumen Voice had split by age and role. Younger caregivers wanted transparent logs, shared editing, and visible sources. Many older adults wanted fewer notifications, a clear human contact, and the ability to keep some information outside the family network. The team kept asking which group represented the future. Maya changed the question. What human need is each generation protecting? Autonomy, trust, dignity, relief from invisible labor, connection without surveillance. The product did not need one generation to defeat another. It needed a new social configuration capable of holding several needs at once. Greene advises those who want to seize a historical moment to feel changes in collective mood before they become obvious. Analyze what lies beneath them. Adapt useful elements of the past, and keep modernizing rather than freezing inside their own formative era. Maya created an intergenerational design council. Victor joined after he could speak for 15 minutes without fatigue. June attended one session and asked why every consent page sounded as if it had been written by a person hiding from court. The team laughed, then rewrote the page. But the hospital had exposed a larger limit no design process could solve. Greene's final law is the law of death denial. Most of us know death intellectually and avoid it emotionally. We treat mortality as distant, exceptional, or relevant, mainly to someone older. This allows petty concerns to expand and meaningful action to remain postponed. Greene asks us to reverse the avoidance. Keep mortality near enough that it restores proportion. The effect is paradoxical. Awareness of death can make life more vivid. The ordinary voice on the phone, traffic outside a window, a familiar hand on a table. The small moment becomes intense because it is not guaranteed to repeat forever. Mortality does not make life meaningless. It makes postponement expensive. After Victor returned home, Maya spent Saturday labeling kitchen drawers with him. He disliked the labels and moved 2 when she was not looking. Maya noticed. She let them remain where he chose. They found an old voicemail from Maya's mother stored on a disconnected phone. It contained no final wisdom. She was reminding Victor to buy ginger and complaining about a bus. Maya listened 3 times. For years, she had thought a meaningful memory should contain a lesson. Now the ordinary complaint felt sacred. Greene describes the paradoxical death effect. Encounters with mortality can awaken attention, urgency, and gratitude. He suggests making awareness visceral, recognizing the shortness of life, seeing mortality in everyone, embracing unavoidable adversity, and opening the mind to experiences larger than the everyday self. This is not an invitation to obsess over catastrophe. It is an invitation to stop requiring catastrophe before we become present. The emotional reversal of Maya's season was now complete. She had believed mastery of human nature would help her predict other people, avoid manipulation, and make better decisions. It did. But the deepest use of the laws was not control. It was mercy through accuracy. People were emotional, self-protective, performative, repetitive, envious, grandiose, conforming, and mortal. So was she. Seeing this clearly did not make betrayal acceptable or boundaries unnecessary. It removed the fantasy that wisdom would lift her outside the species she was trying to understand. You do not master human nature by escaping it. You master your relationship to it. The board offered Maya the permanent chief executive role. She did not accept immediately. She negotiated conditions, shared authority with an independent trust officer, a board seat for caregiver representation, quarterly product sessions with families, and a schedule that did not treat every personal commitment as available inventory. The board accepted most, revised some, and rejected one. Maya did not interpret compromise as proof of betrayal. She accepted the role for 1 year, with a formal review tied to mission and health rather than growth alone. At home, Daniel did not declare the marriage repaired. They began Thursday walks without phones. Some were warm, some were awkward. On one, Daniel admitted he no longer knew whether he wanted their old closeness back or something different. Maya did not rush to define the outcome. She stayed beside the uncertainty. June returned to the district solo the following semester. Before the performance, she asked Maya not to sit near the aisle because people arriving late were distracting. Maya arrived 20 minutes early and sat in the middle. When June looked toward the audience, she found her, no grand reconciliation. One occupied chair. Sometimes that is what a changed life looks like from the outside. Several months later, Victor asked to attend a Lumen town hall. His right hand had recovered enough to hold a cup. Speech still slowed when he was tired. On stage, Maya asked what he wanted technology companies to understand about older adults. Victor looked at the audience for a long time. "Do not build only for the person you think I should become," he said. "Build for the person I still am." June, watching from the front row, wrote this sentence in her notebook. There was the generational bridge. Experience moving forward without demanding imitation. Greene's generational law also has a personal warning. We may become trapped in the values that helped us rise, repeating the same methods after the historical moment changes. To keep adapting, we need active relationships with younger and older people, living contact with history, and enough humility to let a new mood revise us. Maya established reverse mentoring pairs at Lumen, but refused to turn generations into corporate personality types. Age was context, not destiny. The purpose was exposure to different assumptions, not a new labeling system. At home, Mortality continued to work quietly. Maya began taking photographs less often during family dinners. She wanted some memories not to become content. Victor recorded stories, including several that contradicted stories he had told before. June kept both versions. Daniel and Maya still argued. On one Thursday walk, they spent 20 minutes debating whether Maya's new boundaries at work were real or temporary. Mortality did not make them serene. It made the argument worth finishing honestly. To see death clearly is not to flatten life into inspirational urgency. Some hours will still be wasted. Some projects will fail. Some relationships will end despite attention. The discipline is proportion, not panic. We remember that this irritation, victory, body, era, and person are temporary. Then we choose with that fact included. The final practice is the 1-year mortality filter. Imagine not as a prediction, but as a lens that you have 1 year left in your current life as you know it. The people may change. The job may end. Your own health may shift. Write 3 answers. What deserves 1 more hour of my life this week? What am I postponing because I assume the relationship, ability, or opportunity will wait? What conflict has become too small to keep feeding? Then act on one answer within 24 hours. Make the call. Block the hour. Begin the page. Say the honest sentence. Mortality is not only an ending, it is a standard for choosing. I'm Sarah, and this is Wise Mind Stories. If Maya's story helped you recognize a pattern in your own, subscribe to Wise Mind Stories and share this series with someone who has been trying to understand why people, including themselves, do what they do. The laws of human nature do not promise a life without emotion, envy, conflict, or loss. They offer something more realistic: a longer pause, a clearer pattern, a wider view, and, while time remains, a more conscious choice.